Everything you did not know about the Japanese katana. The katana was not just a weapon, it was the most carefully made object in the history of warfare. And this is everything. They never told you about it. It starts with sand, not metal iron. Sand is heated inside a clay furnace for 3 days straight, at temperatures so high, the furnace can only be used once. The result is a block of raw steel called tamahagane. The swordsmith breaks it apart and selects only the pieces with the right carbon content. Too much carbon, and the blade shatters; too little, and it will not hold an edge. Then the folding begins. The steel is heated, hammered flat, folded in half, and hammered again up to 15 times, creating thousands of layers inside the blade. Each fold removes impurities and spreads the carbon evenly. This is what gives the katana its legendary strength, both hard and flexible at the same time. But the real secret is in the heat treatment. The swordsmith coats the blade in clay, thick on the spine, thin on the edge, then plunges it into water. The thin edge cools fast and becomes harder than glass. The thick spine cools slow and stays flexible enough to bend without snapping. This single step is why a katana can cut through bone and still survive a direct hit against another sword. The line where hard meets soft is called the hamen, and no two are ever the same. It is the fingerprint of the blade. After forging, the blade goes to a polisher who spends weeks, sometimes months, using 7 different stones to bring out the grain and the edge. A master polisher can make or destroy a sword with one mistake, and a licensed swordsmith in Japan is only allowed to make 24 katanas per year because every single blade is treated like it is alive. But the sharpness is where it gets disturbing. When a katana was finished, it was not ready until it was tested on a human body. There was an official profession called tamashigiri sword testing. They stacked corpses on top of each other, and a trained swordsman would try to cut through them in one swing. One body was the minimum. The best swords went through 3. The results were engraved directly on the blade, so every buyer knew exactly what they were holding when corpses ran out. They sometimes used living prisoners, condemned criminals tied to wooden frames, and cut apart alive to test the sharpness. This was not illegal. It was government approved for over 300 years, and some samurai did not wait for official testing. There was a practice called tsujigiri, where a samurai who received a new katana would go out at night, hide near a quiet crossroad, and wait for someone to walk past. Then he would step out and cut the person down in a single strike to test the blade. The victim was almost always a peasant or merchant, someone who could not fight back. It became so common that corpses were found outside samurai homes in the morning. The government made it a death sentence in 1602. But it was so hard to stop that commoners formed their own armed gangs to protect themselves. Those gangs eventually became the Yakuza. The katana was also tested in ways that seem impossible. They would hold the blade edge up in a stream and let a leaf float into it. If the leaf split in half on contact, the blade passed. The sharpest swords could cut through. A falling hair dropped onto the edge. But the katana was more than a weapon to a samurai. It was his identity. The only people in Japan legally allowed to carry 2 swords were samurai, a long katana and a short wakizashi. Together, they were called daisho, and wearing them was the visible mark of your social class. 1 sword meant you could fight. 2 swords meant you were born. To the katana went everywhere. The samurai went. When he entered a building, the katana stayed at the door, but the wakizashi went with him to bed, placed directly under his pillow within arm's reach at all times, because during the Warring States period, assassinations at night were so common that a samurai who slept without his blade was a samurai who might not wake up. 6 months of firefolding and patience to create a weapon that finishes its job before you even feel the cut. The katana was not manufactured, it was raised like something alive, and the samurai who carried it believed that is exactly what it was.